This ran deep. This reaction across voters, across different kinds of voters from different backgrounds, different ages, this ran deep. And it was a signal that said, we don't like the policies that you're enacting. So what can they do? I think it's curious to go back to, or I'm sorry, not curious, informative to go back to Obama. Obama had a much stricter border policy than Joe Biden. And I think he did that because he sensed there wasn't enough support in America for something more liberal and more open. So you can say to yourselves, the Democrats closed the border far too late. The Democrats didn't push hard enough to get those interest rates down. The Democrats didn't pay attention to the price of eggs. And that's unusual for the Democrats, who usually care a lot about the price of eggs. So I think this is not necessarily a reboot completely, but they have got to meet the voter where the voter is. And last night, the voter was not with the Democratic Party.
Wendy, you mentioned the border, and let's look ahead here. Trump is about to embark on what many believe to be the largest deportation program in U.S. history. How does he expect to round them all up, and where does he intend to send them?
Well, Trump always surprises us in the sense that he'll sort of go off the ranch and then he'll kind of moderate. The idea is, how long does Trump want to be president? He's constitutionally prohibited from being elected and serving, not from running. And so, does he want to last a long time? Maybe get rid of the 22nd Amendment. I don't know what he plans, but I think he will scale this idea back, especially since the border has been shut down and, undocumented migration has slowed so much. Does he really have to do this? Does he have to disrupt the country this way? He could do some of it, but I don't think the pressure's on him to do all of it because Biden has already taken this step and he'll keep that policy in place.
Wendy, you mentioned the 22nd Amendment. You're not the first one today to talk about it, but what I'm most interested in, and John Tucker mentions, it's the Fed, right? And Trump has made no secret about his intention to have a greater say in monetary policy here in the U.S. My question for you is, what legal mechanisms can Trump take advantage of in order for to give the Oval Office more control, more say in monetary policy?
Well, the Federal Reserve Act, literally the act creating Federal Reserve and all the bills that have come, after that and reauthorizing it, that's something that's been sort of a partnership with private monetary institutions, banks, and the federal government. And the thing about Donald Trump is he's going to need cash, right? You can't crash the government and crash the economy by the federal government running out of cash. So there is a symbiotic relationship between really big banks and the Federal Reserve itself and the success of a president. So there's going to have to be negotiations there. But I don't think the heads of big banks are just going to hand over the keys to the kingdom to the president of the United States, no matter who they are. And so that will be a negotiation. And Trump fancies himself as a very good negotiator.
Wendy, does Kamala Harris have a future as a leader of the Democratic Party? I'm thinking maybe in 4 years' time.
I think all things considered, she ran a good campaign. What she was given, the time frame that she had to work within, and her balancing act of trying to separate from the Biden record and also present some sort of plan for the future and bringing in and solidifying particularly younger women, even older women. I think there's still a block in a constituency that she can tap if she wanted to run again. I just don't see this as a Kamala Harris failed campaign. I see it as Trump being a former president and energizing their base and not making the same campaign mistakes they did in 2020. And the Biden record, those numbers from exit polls yesterday on the wrong track. Those were extraordinarily high numbers, and I don't know if anybody could have won in the face of those numbers.
Wendy, I wonder if you could shift your attention here to what's going on in Ukraine. Obviously, Zelensky was the firebrand who rejected Trump's request for information on Hunter Biden's dealings back during his first tenure. And look, the battlefield's changing. Just yesterday, right, Ukrainian forces had their first run-in with North Korean troops in the Kursk region. What comes next for the Ukraine, for Zelensky, for Central Europe, and for Russia under a Trump administration?
Well, I think Trump is a fan of Putin, and I think Trump has said before that he thinks there's a deal that can be reached. So my guess is Trump says, listen, we're not going to send you the same kind of weaponry. We're not going to support you the same way. Go to the table, cut a deal, give up Crimea. Literally, these are the things that he'll say. And maybe we'll make sure that more of your people don't get killed. I think that's what we'll do. And in the Middle East, I think people who think that he'll be a diehard supporter of Israel, maybe. But he may go to the Saudis and say, what kind of deal do you want to cut to get this thing over with against Iran? He wants to make deals and be the hero. And that's something we've seen before and we'll see again. So whoever's dealing with him has to be able to give him some sort of victory he can walk away with.